What's up, everybody? It's your favorite exhausting reviews, favorite nerd, and today we are looking at the combined Star Saber from, or Victory Saber, I guess I should say, from Planet X. Now, for those that want to get a more well-rounded view of this set, I highly recommend you look at the review for Star Saber. I highly recommend that you look at the review for Victory Leo. Kind of combine the two in your mind before moving into this. We're not covering any transformations in this video that we haven't already covered. We're not covering any combinations in this video that we haven't already covered. We are moving forward. So some of the tutorial stuff will be in the other videos. For instance, how to get him into jet mode, how to get him into jet mode, how to get him prepared for combiner mode, and then with him, we'll kind of start fresh as he is. This is on loan to me from Daniel R. Lot of moving pieces. This review, Star Saber reviews are always just a ton of work between the two bots, all the alt modes, all the different combinations, etc. I'm sure there are more options and ways to combine this and use a lot of the modular components of these two that I'm not going to be able to cover here in totality. With that being said, hopefully we can get enough going on here to form an opinion to give a recommendation or not. These are both supposed to be styled after IDW representations of the character. Interesting thing is there is no IDW representation of this character, so they kind of did that on its own. Therefore, the combination, there isn't really a IDW representation either. So they kind of winged it, you might say. Stop it. Anyway, thanks again to Daniel R. We're gonna go ahead and get started, and we're gonna start with them in jet mode. So we're gonna start with these two. I did want to show them together real quick, and might as well do one with Tiger Tracks just because we're here. Because I think they do look kind of good together. You know, they're kind of more abstract shapes, I guess, generally, but I don't think they look bad together. I'm gonna get Star Saber out of the way for just a second while we just sort this backpack out. There's not a whole lot to this. These pieces come out, and you had to take the backpack off, and let's see, I think you want to spin this around this way. No, this stays the same. We just want the wings on the opposite way. So just spin them around. We're gonna spin the guns around, sit them back, spin them around, spin the guns around, and then I'm just getting started, but I have had a long day and I'm ready for this to be over. Okay, so there's that, and we got these two bits out there. Then you have to take your Star Saber, and I couldn't get mine to attach. I had to look at, it was TM Reviews, and he suggested to put these to the side, and I did get it to work once. Let's see if I can get it to work twice. But you kind of want to get those in there, and then this is really challenging for big-fingered fellas like myself. But then you want to close these the shoulder connection points that you flipped out from Victory Leo to solidify it. And I'm going to stop while I'm ahead because that's close enough for me. And I'm going to be honest with you, E for effort. I mean, it technically connects, but it really looks unfinished. In spite of some of my lack of finish that I have going on with Star Saber, you know, it really, I mean, I guess it works, you know, but it really, 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 really looks unfinished. If you bring these down, maybe it starts to cover it up a little bit. Put your gun in, maybe that'll help. That'll help. That covers up that big kind of gaping hole, so to speak, in the middle. You know, You have to have it, right? It's a thing that it's supposed to do if it's supposed to do it, and there it is next to Tiger Tracks. I personally, unless you really want to go through it, I wouldn't go through the trouble. It's not all that inspiring. You'd probably be better off just leaving it be and going to combine mode if that's something you want to do, or having them in robot mode. I just don't think that there's much to this. Certainly not enough to warrant kind of going through the trouble. But, you know, the landing gear works fine. I'm sure if you wanted to, you could find some place for this stuff and sort of, you know, arm them up if you felt the need. But I'm not sure that I would recommend it personally. So let's go ahead. I'm going to get Star Saber back into robot mode, and I'm going to get Victory Leo back into the combined state that we had him at the end of the review that I did prior to this. And we'll pick up from there. All right. So take your shoe. Slide his foot into it. There's a female there and a male there. There it is. And then this part comes up, and the peg that we flipped out pegs into the back of the calf. Adjust the camera. There we go. And then these black pieces, they come down and tab in to the sides of the thigh. I gotta get his foot a little bit more centered in there. There we go. Yeah, I'm having a hard time getting them, but that's where they go. Same thing on the other side. Slide in the shoe, tab in the heel, and then make sure our tab is out. Rotate at the knee. This comes up. It tabs into the back of the calf, and then these pieces are supposed to tab into the side of the thigh, but mine are not quite there. And then on the front, you want to close this black piece. I forgot to mention that on this one, but you close this black piece over the top of the foot. I've already taken the liberty of taking half of this off, but just so you can see how it's done, it's not too complicated, mind you. Take off the other half, and then you have these pieces. Now, your backpack is going to peg into them, and you need to line it up so that it's these outer pegs here, and then these bits will swing around and plug into the side. And it is not the easiest connection to make. So I'm gonna make the connection, well, at least I got it on this side, and then I'll show you to take this piece and swing that around. Can you see that? And lock it in there. And you want to do that on both sides, but mine, I don't think mine's quite aligned properly on this side, but you get the idea. Then you want to open this, take out your little fella, and you're going to replace him with this. Now, there's two holes there and two pegs on his shoulders that they're going to peg into. That pretty much sits down, and then this comes down and tabs into the top of the mane. But it puts pressure on the end of the tips of the mane. I'm not comfortable doing that. You can do it on your own, but I don't want to break this guy's line. Then for the arms, take off this panel here. Use that female and this male, peg that in. Same thing on this side. This male, that female, peg that in. Then you want to take your hip skirt and attach that onto the front here. It just kind of slides on. You can put your covers back on. There's this square on the inside. There's also this tab that tab will go into there. And then you can do the same on the other side. And then there's this extra tab, and that can be used to hang the sword off of. It can be used to hang the shield off of. With that connection, it's kind of up to you. Then you take his sword, take these pieces that were sitting on the side of the back cannons, slide them onto the sword, and then connect them for the mega sword. I'll get it cleaned up. We'll take a look at him. All right, now we're gonna take a look at the figure the best we can. Like, there's certain things like that I still don't have pegged in quite right, but we will take a look the best we can. So the head sculpt is still the old head sculpt. You can put the new one in there, which will look better, but you have to take it apart. I'm not gonna do that. It's not it doesn't belong to me. So up to there, that's good on a ball peg. Down to there is good. Side to side is good. Little confused Star Saber face is okay also. Yeah, the teapot should have been ratcheted because the weight of the figure, especially when he has his weapons and such, it tends to kind of pull to one side or the other. You do get the waist swivel, and I don't believe that... Oh, you do get an ab crunch as well, so pardon me, as I was. I do like the kind of lion head on the front. It is coming apart a bit. Let's see. Shoulders. Butterfly joint on a hinge. There's also a ratchet... a soft ratcheted joint inside of the shoulder. In addition to that, there's also this tension joint. However, once again, the weight can be an issue. Specifically for the ratchet, not much for the tension, ironically. Then you have the bicep swivel. It's good until you hit this stuff here. Now you can take all this stuff out and do a more kind of traditional Star Saber look. That's up to you. And then bicep swivel, did we go over that? The paint that we've already covered on the Star Saber looks good. And then the hands we've already covered as well. But for the sake of it, wrist swivel, fingers are on a base pin knuckle and then come out to a secondary hinge. And they're all individually articulated. Ratcheted elbow gets you 90 degrees. And you can, like, I liked this for like the original Star Saber. Of course, you can extend it for the Victory Saber. All right. Now, moving further down, let's see if we can adjust the camera just a taste. Not really. Okay, so the hips are an issue. They're an issue. They're a soft ratchet, and as a result, they don't support the weight of the figure. Now, you might say to yourself as you're looking at this, well, I don't want to have him kicking out to the side, and that's valid. But I will show you what happens when you try to pose him. Now, the ratchet forward and back actually does work well, namely because it's a harder ratchet. Now, it still can't support the weight in a freestanding pose, but in a pose, it can hold it just fine. The thigh swivel is also too loose, I'm afraid, and should have been ratcheted as well because the thighs also have a tendency to spin out as you go to pose. The paint on the legs is gorgeous. Remains so, I should say. And then we have a soft ratcheted knee. Once again, doesn't really support the weight on the soft ratchet. It should have been a hard ratchet. Now, he does come with those replacement parts that we talked about with the Victory Leo. I'm not sure exactly where they go, but perhaps they make a difference somewhere over the rainbow of colors. And then we have the ankle. So you have a toe tilt up and a toe tilt down. That acts as your ankle tilt. And then the rocker doesn't really work. It's all going to be on the toe because the rocker causes it to unpeg from the back. Now, when I go to pose this guy, right, let's just say like a, you know, like a... It's just the joints are just not quite strong enough to hold the weight, you know. And if I let it all go, it'll all go, and then this is all kind of coming out. See his thighs turning out there. The thighs should have been ratcheted. Like unfortunately, it's not entirely successful. Real quick, I did want to show you that there is a G1 look where you can kind of get the Star Saber chest back and take the stuff off the arms, and it does handle the weight a little bit better with the joints as well, but then you kind of like lose the kind of coolness of having a different design Star Saber, you know what I mean? It's like if you wanted a masterpiece, I mean Victory Saber, why wouldn't you just go with the KFC and the Takara if you wanted it to kind of mimic G1? You know, the beauty of this was that it was something different. Size comparison wise, there he is with Starline and Trailbreaker. So, you know, big fella. Final thoughts wise, we'll start with the negatives, and there are a fair bit. I don't know if it's the time that has lapsed between the two releases, but they don't totally feel as though they were made for each other. And they're made by the same company, and yet somehow the Simba from KFC felt like it was more meant to go with the Takara than these two pieces feel like they are meant to go with one another. Why do I say that, you ask? Well, because the connections aren't all that well toleranced in some spaces. Things don't fit quite as nicely as you would prefer in some spaces. The tabs on his neck, for instance, going into the lion's head, the tabs going into the thighs on the black pieces that fold back, you know, even the shoulder mounts going into the shoulders, the connection, you have to kind of like squeak, squeak, squeak it in, you know? It's almost like they weren't prepared for one another, and they should have been. My second biggest issue are a lot of the joints. A lot of the Star Saber joints aren't really made with the amount of weight that he has to carry in mind. And it's like painfully obvious at times, specifically in the hips, but also in the knees. The shoulders do all right, surprisingly, but even the kind of teapot movement of the waist doesn't quite seem in tune with itself. In terms of the jet mode combination, I mean, it does hold, you know, it just doesn't look complete, and that has to be stated as well. It just doesn't look complete. The problem is that what you want this thing to be, I think, is the combination, and the combination just doesn't really hold up, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it's without merit, and let's go ahead and get into that. Positives wise, I'll tell you what I like. I like the fact that they took a new look at the character. They didn't just try to make it a G1 representation. They still try to carry over that IDW look. They try to give it something new and fresh, and I appreciate that. They could have easily gone the kind of G1 route and, you know, G1 lowercase g. I like that it has a lot of different kind of modular compatibility. You can kind of move things around, peg things in different places to get the aesthetic that you want. I like the deco. I like the sculpt. I love that they included a new face sculpt, because that was what was really killing the other one, and the new face sculpt is much better. And I should also note that they did come with extra pieces. I'm not sure if it makes the figure any better in terms of stability. I think what's on there right now is the stock stuff, and the stock stuff needs a lot of work. I can recommend them as individuals. I don't really feel comfortable recommending them combined, at least in robot mode. I do think that you could have a really cool looking set here for an IDW styled Star Saber, and then have kind of the lion maybe on a leash or something. Put him in lion mode, which I think is his most sort of flattering mode, and then you could kind of have him on a leash, and then I think that the set would work. If you're wanting for combined mode with what I have here, I just simply can't recommend it. If you want it for robot mode and you're good with the aesthetics, I can recommend that, and I feel the same about the alt mode. So it's really up to you. There's a lot to like here, but there's also a lot to kind of drive you nuts in the same breath. So depending on what your purposes are, or your ability to kind of fix problems with loose joints, etc., that's how I sort of feel about it. That being said, I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, take care.